from so many different countries here to join us. We are going to go through some general information and answer questions about the Master of Arts in International Development and the Obama Foundation Scholars Program, and we'll make sure that we have time for questions at the end. As questions come up, go ahead and submit them using the chat feature, and then when we're finished with the PowerPoint, Alyssa will share some of the questions and we'll work together to answer those. So let's just jump right in. What are we going to cover today? We are going to cover general information about Harris Public Policy. We will make sure to dive into the Master of Arts in International Development in the Obama Foundation program. We'll talk a little bit about our faculty teaching in the program because we've received so many questions about this. We'll go through information on the application process, who we are looking for this program, another very frequently asked question, important dates, and then we'll take questions that you have. So Harris Public Policy is located at the University of Chicago. Chicago is our classroom, our gallery, our playground. Our students know that policy doesn't exist in a vacuum, and so our students are involved in the Chicago area and can get involved in the community. And we're just really excited to be a part of this great city, and also so excited that the Obama Foundation has chosen Harris as well as the University of Chicago to partner with on this program. So some of our degree programs, as a student in the Masters of Arts in International Development program, you'll be taking classes and participating in activities and attending events alongside all of our other students. So we wanted to make sure that you had an idea of all of the different degree programs that are offered here at Harris. And so our most popular program is the Masters of Public Policy, but we have our other degrees and programs listed here. Two new programs that we've launched are the Data and Policy Summer Scholar Program. That's a short program that's offered over the summer. And then the Double Executive Masters in Health Policy with the London School of Economics. And that program is a very interesting program. I'd encourage you to read more about that program. Both of those, there's information on the website. And you can also see all of the other programs that we offer here at Harris that students can take part in, and you'll have classes with students that are in these other programs as well. Around the campus, there are lots of different resources for students, and so we always encourage you when you are joining an institution to learn about the university as a whole. And so at the University of Chicago, we have other research centers that students can get involved in and learn more about. The University of Chicago Institute of Politics was founded by David Axelrod after the presidential election, I believe in 2013. And David Axelrod has podcasts where he interviews many different public figures, and they're really interesting. And the Institute of Politics has events all the time that are also open to the community. But this presentation gives an idea of all of the different centers around the university that you can participate in as a student at the University of Chicago. Our students are very active. That's what's really exciting about working with policy students, is that they tend to naturally be a collaborative group of students who want to work together to find solutions to problems. That's what's driven them to pursue policy. This is a picture from one of our group clubs that I think it was an event that they had last year. And then there's a short list of the different clubs and organizations that we have here that you can join as a student. The Asian Policy Forum, Women in Public Policy, Chicago Policy Review, Latin America Matters, Minorities in Public Policy, and there's a much more extensive list if you look at the Harris student organizations listed on the website. But these students collaborate together to host events. Their clubs and organizations are very active. They'll work to bring really interesting and unique speakers to campus, and they're just the students here at Harris are just really great students. So general information about the Master of Arts in International Development and Policy and the Obama Foundation. If you are interested in the Obama Foundation Scholars Program, you have to be apply to the Master of Arts in International Development and Policy degree program. That's the only program that students can apply to and be eligible for this scholarship. You are welcome to apply for other programs, but there is an area on your application that you can check requesting that you be considered for other programs, and so we would automatically consider you for other programs. Our other degree programs, our MPP, our MA, our MSESP, those students who apply for those programs are eligible for merit-based scholarships, but they're not eligible for the Obama Foundation Scholars Program. However, as you're learning more about Harris and you decide that you're just really interested in policy, we encourage you to consider those other programs and work on that. First and foremost, work on your application to the Obama Foundation Scholars Program, but know that if you're interested in other Harris programs, you can apply, ask to be considered for those programs. So in order to be considered for the Obama Foundation Scholars Program, your first step is to complete the application for the Master of Arts in International Development and Policy. You can complete that application fully online. This is a one-year degree program, and you will have students who are selected for the Obama Foundation Scholars Program will also have opportunities outside of the classroom. So those opportunities will include leadership development, and possibly in New York and Washington, D.C., speakers series, individual and group service projects, mentorship through the Obama Foundation Network, and then during your program, you'll also be working on an action plan that will help you to plan for what you will do when you complete the program. So this action plan is a development for post-program activities that you will work on after you have completed the program. So resources as you're working through the application. There is a very robust admissions FAQ on the website that is specific to the Obama Foundation. There is also an admissions blog. We really encourage you to take a look at our admissions blog because we have posts from other graduate students at the University of Chicago. So for example, if you're struggling with the essay questions for the Obama Foundation, we have a blog post where one of our students talks about how she worked on her essays and what's her tips for working on an essay. We also have blog posts, what do we look for in a resume, things like that. So we really encourage you to use these websites and use these resources and keep attending webinars. We do plan to have webinars about once a week. We're going to experiment and try different times to see what works. But those are really your best resources. We also are doing our best to record these webinars. So if you email the Harris Obama Scholars at uchicago.edu, you can get a link to the next webinar. Or you can request a recording to a previous webinar. But there is, as you can imagine, a very high volume of interest in this program because the Obama Foundation Scholarship covers full tuition as well as some living expenses for students. We are receiving a high level of inquiry, and so we really encourage you to use these resources. It's very difficult for our team to make sure that we are answering every question that students have and working closely with every student. We're doing our best to make sure that these webinars and the FAQ in the blog are answering all of the questions that you have, and those are really your best resource as you're working through this process. So what does the curriculum look like in the program? There are 9 courses in the curriculum, and they can be completed in one academic year. So you'll have 3 quarters in your academic year, and quarters are 10 weeks. Foundational skills in data analytics, analytical politics, and economics. International development and policy, economic development, political development. Electives, so you participate in the Harris Policy Labs to develop a real-world policy solution for client organizations. You can choose from a wide range of electives on a variety of topics. The Policy Labs, so it's a really great opportunity to work on a real-world project. This is an actual course that students take. You and another group of students are assigned a client, and you have a faculty member who oversees your project, and you work on addressing the policy needs of this client. It's a really exciting course, and we have good feedback from students that this course has really helped them get a better understanding of their career opportunities in working on a real-world policy issue. So who are our faculty within the program? So I have 2 slides that talk about some of the faculty that are in the program, but I really encourage you to look up these faculty, learn more about their research. They have very accessible research. So Anjali, for example, has some podcasts on our website, the Harris website, where she discusses some of her research. Chris Blattman has a blog, chrisblattman.com, that you can check that talks just regularly about the things that he's researching. So definitely take a look at these different faculty members and their current research, and we try and have information on the website about them and their research as well. So more detailed information on the application process. The application is available fully online. The application is dynamic, and what that means is as you move through the application, more fields will be required. So some students will say, I'm not able to fill out my essays, but typically that means they haven't moved through enough of the application. You must submit all required information. Your fees for this program will be waived upon submission of your application. Unofficial documents can be accepted for review of your application, and you'll be required to send officials if you are admitted. So if you have unofficial transcripts, unofficial test scores, self-reported test scores, you can put those on your application, and your application will still be reviewed. But if you are admitted, we then need those official documents. Letters of recommendation must be professional or academic. We need 3 of those letters of recommendation, and they cannot be from friends or family members. We also encourage you to maintain professionalism throughout the application process in your contact and your outreach to Harris staff members as well as anyone else as you're working through this process. The application requirements. So the application can be completed fully online. If for your letters of recommendation, you enter your recommender's information in an email, will go to your recommender and they can send in their recommendation that way. If your recommender is having problems, they can send a recommendation directly to Harris Obama Scholars at uchicago.edu, but they really should be trying to submit everything completely online. We require transcripts, a resume, and there's 2 short essay responses. Your GRE is not required. We have lots of questions about the TOEFL and the IELTS and language proficiency requirements in general, so I want to take a moment to address that in detail and go over that process. I think because this program is an international development program, it's naturally attracting a lot of international students, and we're receiving quite a few questions on this. So I want to make sure to explain this process clearly. The best resource for you to learn more about TOEFL and IELTS and language proficiency requirements is to visit the Office of International Affairs at the University of Chicago. It's often referred to as OIA, the acronym for Office of International Affairs. OIA has an extremely detailed website, and some students will say, oh, this website is very long, there's lots of information, but it's very long and there's lots of information for a reason, because it's designed to be a resource for students and help students. So we really encourage you, as part of the process, if you are an international student, in addition to working on your application, make sure you're spending time reading through the OIA website, becoming familiar with that process, because that's designed to help you understand the rules and regulations of being an international student, which is a really important part of being an international student, is understanding that aspect as well. And so students there was a very, very brief list of countries from where we can accept where students are not required to submit a TOEFL or an IELTS. Many students will email us and let us know that their entire education was in English, that English is often spoken in their country, but the Office of International Affairs is the office that determines the countries where we can accept students without having a TOEFL or IELTS, and I think that is England, Australia, and maybe a few other countries. It's a very limited list. So attending a school where the language of instruction was English, living in a country where English is often spoken as a part of business, does not grant you a waiver for that, and our office isn't able to waive your language proficiency on that. Many students email us requesting a waiver, and we don't issue a waiver for this. What will happen is you will go through the process, you will go through the application process, and if the information you enter does not allow you If the information you enter does not meet the language proficiency requirement, you will then be prompted to upload a video statement. You have a limited number of attempts to complete this video statement, and then that gets submitted as part of your application. So we do not preemptively grant you a waiver for the English requirement as part of the application. You'll have to go through the application, and if you do not meet the language proficiency requirements, you will be prompted to upload your video. We do accept a TOEFL and an IELTS score, so we can accept both of those. If you are in a country where there is not going to be a test offered before the application deadline, we encourage you to prepare every other part of your application. You should be able to indicate on the application that you are registered for a TOEFL exam and you're waiting for those scores and submit your application. Then when your scores come in, let's say your scores come in on April 22nd, shortly after the deadline, we will still do our best to include those in your application. However, there is a very quick review period for these applications. So if you can't register and submit your score until May or even after, then you'll want to think about the program for the following year, the 2019 intake for the program. So we understand that being an international student poses a whole unique set of challenges and very different processes to navigate. The website does detail those programs out or does detail a lot of that process, so please just make sure to visit the Office of International Affairs. So what are we looking for in an application? We are looking for the next generation of leaders who are really driven to change the world. We work with our students to take the passion and enthusiasm they have for doing good into proven social impact. With this partnership with the Obama Foundation, students will have access to this incredible UChicago curriculum at Harris, but also these additional mentoring and other opportunities through the Obama Foundation. We're seeking rising leaders who are going to meet the following criteria. They possess a clear focus on a global challenge or issue. And so you'll notice the essay statements in your application are really asking you to focus in on that. Students need to have a clear commitment to return to and reinvest your new skills in your community after the program concludes. We're looking for students who have a few years of work experience and that they've demonstrated some type of professional accomplishment or some type of trajectory of increasing impact. So this can mean that you've continually taken on new responsibilities at work, you have progressively responsible experience, or that you've also demonstrated a record of community service or working for the public good, either through some type of full-time role or significant engagement outside of your primary employment. So maybe your primary employment, you've had a few years of work experience, you've had a good trajectory, but you've also been very involved in your community. You've taken on leadership roles, you've done significant volunteer work. We'd be looking for that as well. Important dates. So the application is due on April 17th. Decisions are going to be released on May 31st. If you, sometimes we'll get a lot of questions from students. Is it midnight on April 17th? Is it, well, what if I'm in Beijing and it's a 12-hour time difference or 14 hours? We encourage you to submit on April 17th, whatever time zone you're in, don't worry too much about that, but submit on April 17th. Decisions will be released on May 31st. If you're driven to change the world for the better, we really encourage you to think about this program and to think more about Harris and policy programs in general. There are lots of ways for you to get engaged. You can follow us on social media or visit the admissions blog. As President Obama said about this program, the Obama Foundation scholars will be connected to one another, they'll be active in the community, and they'll get additional skills, training, and inspiration that will help them change their communities and ultimately the world. So that's what we are looking for with this program. So we want to make sure we have lots of time for questions. Alyssa, do we have some questions coming in?
Yeah, we're getting some great questions. Please keep sending those through the chat feature. Jenny, a lot of the questions that we're getting are revolving around the letter of reference requirement. Does a certain number have to be academic versus professional? What are we looking for in that?
Those are good questions. So if you have been out of school for a few years and all of your recommendations are professional, that's fine. If you have an academic reference, that's great too. Typically, we see students that will submit if they've been out of school for a few years, they might submit 2 professional and 1 academic. They might submit all professional. If you've only been out of school a short time, typically those students will submit more academic than professional letters. If you are, as we talked about in this presentation, we're looking for students who have been very involved in their communities. Maybe you have a letter of recommendation from your employer, but you also have a letter of recommendation from someone who's familiar with your involvement and your passion for improving your community or for international development. And so that way your recommenders are really speaking to different aspects of you as an applicant. We also really encourage students to make sure that their recommenders know them well, that their recommendations are very genuine, and that the recommenders understand why they're pursuing the policy program. There's a blog post that we do have that's about asking for letters of recommendation, and so we really encourage you to review that blog post. The other thing is, because this program has a very short time frame, one of the first things you're going to want to do is reach out to your recommenders. We typically encourage students to give recommenders a few weeks. Right now it's just under a month until the application deadline, so that's why we really encourage you to reach out to recommenders. Even if you don't have your essay questions done, you're still working through those. In the meantime, make sure to reach out to your recommenders and give them plenty of time. And then we typically encourage students to follow up maybe 2 weeks before the deadline, a week before the deadline, and make sure your recommenders know to submit your application. We don't follow up with your recommenders. We don't reach out to them and ask for the recommendations for you. Students have to follow up with their recommenders. If your recommender, however, is having trouble, is just having an issue submitting something, then the recommender can email harrisobamascholars@uchicago.edu.
Great. We're getting some logistical kind of questions about submitting the application. A lot of students asking, can I submit my application before every piece of it has arrived?
So you can, if you submit your application before all of your letters of recommendation will arrive, you can do that. What will then typically happen is once your recommendations come in, they'll sync with your file. Just know that if you submit your application before we have all of your information, we won't review your application until we have everything. So if you submit your application and the letters of recommendation end up not coming in, then we won't review your application simply because it's submitted. We'll just, we won't deny your application just won't be reviewed and issued. You won't receive a decision on that. Also, please remember, once you submit your application, we can't make changes to your application. So if you submit your application and you want to provide a different essay statement or something like that, once your application is submitted, it's in the submitted status.
Another logistical question about that, as a student, can I email the team my application documents or send a hard copy in the mail?
Because of the large volume of applications that we're dealing with and the tight deadline, students do have to complete their application online. So we have had some students who have wanted to send paper applications with all of their recommenders, their essays, printed out application. For this process, you do have to complete the online application. Documents that are mailed to us, it would be very challenging for those to get attached to your application in a timely manner. So if you had a recommender who said, oh, my preference is to mail letters of recommendation, given the tight timeline, it would be very difficult for us to make sure that those got attached to every recommendation.
Great. Another question I'm seeing quite a few students asking, do I need to have my bachelor's degree completed at the time that I apply for this program?
You do not need to have the bachelor's completed at the time you apply, but your bachelor's degree must be conferred before you're able to start the program. Because we're looking for students who have a few years of work experience, it's possible that we have a student who's in their undergrad right now and they're incredibly active and they have lots of experience. We know that that's possible, but we're typically looking for students to have a few years of work experience for this program. But you can start the application without having your bachelor's degree conferred, and then for all students, we do need your final official transcripts if you are admitted.
Great. Quite a few students asking, is the MAIDP separate from the Obama Scholarship, and how many students are we expecting to start in the fall?
We're looking to start a cohort of about 25 students who would be doing the Masters of Arts in International Development program, as well as the Obama Foundation Scholars Program. So students can apply to the students who are applying to the Masters of Arts in International Development program will automatically be considered for the Obama Foundation. To make this process go smoothly, because it's a very tight timeline, we've really made this process efficient, so you're applying to both at the same time, and your application then is first reviewed for the degree program and then evaluated for the Obama Foundation Scholars Program.
Great. We're getting a lot of questions about work experience. The first one I want to bring up here is the 3 to 5 years that we're looking for as a goal. We're having students that are asking both, is that a requirement? Can I have fewer than that? And also, is there an age limit? Will I be cut off if I have more than that?
So that's something that we've received, again, I think because we have a lot of international students who are interested in this program, we do not have age cutoffs for programs. So students, as long as you have the requirement to start the degree is having your bachelor's degree conferred. So if your bachelor's degree was conferred, you're eligible to apply for the program regardless of your age. That's not a consideration during the process. As far as the 3 to 5 years, that's a range that we give students. If you feel like you are a good candidate for this program, if you have a passion for leadership, for giving back in your community, if you want to really learn, you're very interested in policy and you're interested in the Harris curriculum and this focus on policy isn't about feeling good, it's about doing good, and you have less than 3 years or more than 5 years, I would encourage you to apply for that program. Don't let the 3 to 5 years be any type of barrier that convinces you to not apply for the program. And again, students who apply for this program, if you indicate on the application that you are interested in being considered for other programs, your application will be reviewed for other programs. And while the Obama Foundation Scholars Program doesn't apply to the MPP or the MA or the other programs, there are merit-based scholarships that students in those programs are eligible for. So we really encourage you, you'll want to really focus your application for the Obama Foundation program, but know that there are other degree programs as well for students.
Great. Another question that we're getting that's related to the work experience is there a certain type that we're looking for? Is private sector versus public sector? If I'm working in my local community as opposed to the global community, how will that impact my application?
That's another great question. So we're really looking from students that are coming from a variety of different sectors. We aren't looking for students who are only working in the public or not-for-profit sector. If students are working in the private sector, we're looking for those applications as well. Overall, what we're looking for is to see that students have this strong work experience, they've had an impact, but that they're also engaged and interested in working in their community. And so those essay questions, the overall advice we give to students is that your resume is a great place to put information that you want to make sure that the committee is going to see. So your resume, we don't have a limit on the resume, we don't have a template requirement, it doesn't have to be chronological or only policy experience. Your resume is a great place to put all the things that you want to draw attention to. So let's say you've worked in the private sector in maybe the banking industry, but you have all of this involvement within your community outside of that industry. Maybe you're active in civic engagement within the community, you volunteer, you're leading an organization. All of that is really great experience you want to make sure to put on your resume. On the other side of that, let's say that you've had a few years of experience, but it's really been with a very small organization, but you've had a big impact on a community and you want to detail all of that out, you know, make sure to put that in your application, the work that you do, but in your resume you can indicate you have a lot of room and flexibility to provide us with a lot of information. Some students will also use the resume to list out any other relevant coursework that they've taken that they think is going to be helpful, public research or publications that they might have done, you know, all the different activities they're involved in. So approach your resume from that aspect, and then your essay statements, we encourage you to be very clear and focused in your answers and responses to those, because when we're evaluating your application for your work experience and your engagement and your impact, we're going to be looking at all those different areas.
Great. It seems like we might have a handful of current University of Chicago students logged in, which is great to see. So we're getting some questions about, are current master's students able to apply for the program or take courses? For example, I see someone from the School of Social Service Administration with us.
That's a good question. So I believe that these courses are going to be open and available to students, but I think it's going to be up to how many seats are available in those classes. As a current master's student, I believe you can apply for the program, but I do not believe coursework that you've currently completed is going to transfer into this program. Yeah.
And is there a joint degree option that's available for students with this?
No, not with this program. So typically our joint degrees are with the MA or the MPP program.
Great. Quite a few students asking about if we're looking for a certain percentage or quota of students from certain countries.
So within this program, we are really looking for students from a variety of different backgrounds, and that expands to a lot of different things. We want to see students from a variety of sectors with different areas of interest, different policy areas of interest. We have faculty members who are teaching in this program who are teaching different subjects and different backgrounds. So we like to see students that are coming from those different backgrounds and those different areas. There isn't a specific number of students that we're looking for from one country, but we do want to see some really strong diversity of interests and students coming from diverse and unique backgrounds.
So how often is this program going to be running, Jenny, and when can students start to apply for 2019 if 2018 isn't the right timing?
That is a great question. So I think that the application for 2019 is going to be open probably sometime in the mid to late summer, and then next year we'll have significantly more time for students to be working through that application process. So for those of you on the webinar who are already familiar with Harris, you know that we frequently will do webinars. Usually what we do is throughout the fall, we do a lot of general admissions information webinars, and then in the spring we switch over to more specific webinars, webinars with current students, webinars with different research centers, just to let you learn as much as you possibly can about Harris. For this program, we'll probably do the same. We'll be offering webinars through the fall that are specific to this program. We do similar. We did webinars that were specific to the CAP program in the fall, webinars that were specific to the MACRM program in the fall. So we do program-specific webinars as well as general admissions webinars. So we encourage you to keep applying to those, or keep registering and signing up for those webinars. And then also in the fall, we'll have more information on the programs and things like that.
It looks like the questions are starting to slow down a little bit, so if you have any last questions, please take this time to go ahead and send them in. Another question I've seen quite a few students send through is, can I do this Obama Scholars Program as a part-time student, and do I have to be in Chicago to do it?
This program is a full-time program, and you do have to be in the Chicago area to complete this program. So there is not an online or a part-time component to this program. If you're interested in a part-time policy program, or you're just interested in a degree that you can complete while you are still working, we encourage you to look at the Masters of Arts Evening part-time program that's offered at 1871 in the Merchandise Mart, or the double executive master's program with the London School of Economics. Both of those programs would accommodate students who are working. They'd be able to complete that program. But this program is a full-time program. Classes will be during the day. We've had students in the past ask about, can they work during this program? But within this program, you know, we typically, when students are starting at the University of Chicago and they're interested in working, we encourage them to take time to adjust to that first quarter before diving in too much to work or extracurricular activities. But if you're participating in this program, in addition to the classes that you'll be taking, you're also going to have the post-program action plan that you're putting together. So students probably, it's going to be very difficult, I think, to find time to be working while completing this program, but that's why students have full tuition and personal expenses covered.
That leads right into my next question. Great transition, Jenny. A lot of students asking what the scholarship covers. Is it just tuition? Is it fees? And also, if I'm coming from outside the U.S., can I bring my family?
So the scholarship will cover the tuition and mandatory fees for the program. It's going to cover personal expenses for the program, and your application fee is waived when you submit your application for this program. So this is really covering the expenses that you would have. For bringing families through the visa, when you're going through your visa interview process, you'll have to work with our Office of International Affairs to add additional dependents on in order to have them come over as part of your visa. And we're working with our office to kind of understand additional funding that you would need or things like that to cover your family. So at this time, I don't think we have all the answers to that, but if you are in that situation, I would still encourage you to work through your application, and thank you for your patience as we work through some of these newer questions.
Jenny, can you talk a little bit about our Career Development Office and how they will assist students throughout this process?
So we have this amazing Career Development Office here at Harris, and in addition to having academic advisors that work directly with students on picking out and registering for classes and any issues related to student life, you have a career development team that's focused on assisting you with pursuing careers or internships. And so you can schedule appointments with those advisors. They'll work directly with students. They'll help you with your resume. They have different companies and organizations that come to Harris for interviews, and they also have connections in cities all over the world between different companies and alumni networks and things like that. So as a Harris student, you would still be eligible to work with a career development office.
That's great. And related to that, in the application process, we're having a few students asking what we mean by a clear commitment to invest in your community. Do our applicants need to know exactly what they want to do when they graduate with this degree?
So for that essay question, I think it's important to be really specific and know the area you want to impact. So sometimes students don't know exactly, you might not know exactly how you're going to solve that problem or impact that community. Let's say that within your community there is an educational access issue. Maybe within your community you feel that the schools are not accessible to all students, or you feel that within your community, education is something that could really be improved. You don't have equal education outcomes for women or equal education outcomes for people of color, and so you're really trying to find ways to improve educational outcomes. You might not know exactly how you're going to do that, but a strong applicant for this program will have already worked in that area, will be very knowledgeable about it, and will be wanting to pursue the MAIDP program so they can have the curriculum and the skills they need to be able to ask really tough questions to then go return to their community and improve that, address that issue and improve that. So you might not know, maybe within your community, the reason that there's such inequality in education is because of the tax system and how schools are funded, and you have really unique ideas about how you can improve school funding, but you're not quite sure if that's the right idea, and we're hoping that the degree can help you do that and solve that problem in your community. Let's say Professor Anjali Adukia has researched how access to basic sanitation can improve educational outcomes, especially for young women. And let's say that maybe you know that that's an issue in your community, but you're not quite sure yet. What is the best answer to improve that? Is the best answer to create schools that are just for young women? Is the best answer for that to make sure that there's access to private sanitation? You can follow up more and learn more about Professor Adukia to learn about her answers and the conclusions she's drawn, but we're hoping that students who are interested in those particular areas will have answers that are clear in what they want to pursue, with this idea that this Harris degree and this program is going to help them return to those communities and solve those issues.
Great. All right, it seems like we have a lot of students joining us on this webinar that already have a master's degree, which is wonderful to see, and a lot of questions about, does that preclude students? Can I not do this if I already have a master's?
No, if you already have a master's, you are eligible to pursue this program. It will be really important in your essays that you indicate how an additional master's program, and this one specifically, is going to, really help you achieve your goals and the outcomes in your community.
That's great, and I think a great note for us to end on in terms of questions here as they slow down. I know we probably aren't able to hit every question that's coming through on the chat, so what are some ways that I can continue to get info about this program? Will there be additional webinars after today?
Yes, we're planning on doing a webinar at least once a week up into the submission deadline. We're going to try to bring in other resources and other people on the webinar. Hopefully everyone on the webinar feels that this is helpful. They love listening to Jenny and Alyssa answer questions and go over things, but we want to make sure that these webinars are meeting your needs. So we're going to look into make sure that we're reaching out to different resources that can be helpful for students. So we will keep having webinars, but again, as I mentioned, a really great resource for you is the website. So the Harris website has an FAQ on it that details a lot of the answers to these questions. If we are getting questions that we don't have answers to on the website, we're trying to put them on the FAQ. So chances are, if you have a question, it's going to be on the FAQ. If it's not on the FAQ and we're receiving it from multiple students, we're doing our best to update and put that information out there. In addition to the FAQ, you're going to want to look at the Office of International Programs, OIA. If you're an international student, you want to make sure to read through and understand their policies and learn as much as you can about being an international student.
And I just sent links to both of those, the frequently asked questions about the application process, and again to the English language requirements in the chat feature.
Okay, does that cover everything?
I believe so.
Okay, thank you for all joining us. A big thank you to Alyssa for putting this webinar together, checking all these questions, and recording this webinar, so we'll be able to share that out. But if there's anything else you need, we'll have another webinar next week, and it'll be posted on the website soon. So thank you, everyone. We look forward to receiving your applications.